Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Richard DeSanso, known to most of my patients as Dr. D. First, I want to thank you for taking this opportunity to spend time with me as we continue our journey beyond medicine and explore a new way of thinking today about a world within the concept of the map known as the direction of correction. But before we do, I want to take a moment to backtrack a little bit for those of you new to this process, new to this video series, and introduce myself. In addition to being the CEO of Matrix Transformation, I'm also the creator and developer of a health evaluation process known as the Matrix Assessment Profile, or the MAP. Now, inherent in that acronym is a simple concept that if you want to get from where you are to where you want to be, obviously a map can be very handy. But also it represents the fact that we've got a lot of territory to explore in determining what the ultimate cause of chronic and unresolved symptoms might be. Now, the whole focus of my entire 40 years in this branch of the healing arts has really been chronic and unresponsive, non-responsive disorders, meaning that you are in fact experiencing what I call a vicious cycle disorder, which is simply a symptom or a group of symptoms that just seem to go on and on and on. There doesn't seem to be any end in sight. They don't seem to get better. In fact, they seem to get worse. You've been everywhere, you've done everything, you've seen everybody, and essentially that, we can't find anything wrong. The symptoms are normal for your age. All your tests are negative. We're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to run more tests, or the symptoms are all in your head. Now, having said all of that, the Matrix Assessment Profile is a simple biological fluid analysis combined with a symptom survey and a comprehensive history evaluation, which we send to you upon your request, and this entire process is performed in the privacy of your own home. So you receive all of this information that we're going to need in order to assist you in creating a strategy for turning your symptoms into solutions. And as part of that process, you'll fill out some paperwork telling us about who you are, because a long time ago, Hippocrates did say it doesn't matter what the symptoms are, what the disorder is, what the disease is. It is far more important who the person is, who that individual is that's experiencing these symptoms. And so that is, in large part, the foundation for this assessment process. So in the course of filling out this paperwork, I'm going to be asking you things about what you believe, what you do every day, your exercise, your diet, your supplements, your medications, your symptoms, what it is that you would like to improve. What do you think, what kind of things have you done to this point to improve or to resolve or to eliminate the symptoms? And basically to get a comprehensive picture of who it is that you are. Now, this in conjunction with the biological fluid analysis of urine and saliva, all of this is sent back to our office, run through a quantum fluid analyzer. I look at all of the information. I determine what I believe to be the ultimate cause of the symptoms that you're experiencing, and I construct individualized protocols for taking you from where you are to where it is that you want to be. That, in a nutshell, is the MAP process. Now, within the evaluation portion of the Matrix Assessment Profile, I also consider three primary realms of influence that either cause or contribute to compromises, imbalances, deficiencies in the biological environment that I call the matrix. One of these realms is structure. So we're going to be asking questions about structure, posture, breathing, diet, exercise, sleep. Obviously, the biochemistry is an important part of this evaluation process. So I'm going to be looking at things like pH and what they call RH2, oxidative reduction. That essentially translates to free radicals, and free radicals versus antioxidants. And then we're going to be looking at nutrient availability. Do you have enough of the raw materials for your body to be performing the functions that it has to perform every day? And then in conjunction with that, we're going to be looking at what is called the virtual realm. And now within this realm, because it's intangible, it's unseeable, and yet it's knowable, we have the psychological, the emotional, and the spiritual compromises or aspects of our human experience that need to be factored in to an ultimate protocol recommendation in order for us to ethically and accurately determine the cause and create a protocol for turning your symptoms into solutions. Now, today we're going to talk a little bit about the direction of correction, because this, in essence, is what this whole process is about. And I'm going to be spending a little more time in the virtual realm today, because there are a couple of tools that you need to be aware of and that you can easily implement into that unseen, that intangible arena, based on what it is that we know about how the brain works, how the conscious mind works, how the subconscious works, how the unconscious works, and also a little bit about quantum physics, some of the concepts that originate in quantum physics, how they translate into the human experience, and how they can translate into the solution package that we arrive at as part of our assessment process. Now, in talking about the virtual realm, sometimes it can be difficult, sometimes it can be relatively easy, because there are things inherent in this realm, such as developmental trauma, that you may or may not be aware of, because sometimes it occurs during the ages of 3, 4, 5, or 6, and then shock trauma, which are things you don't expect to happen, but they impact your life in a dramatic way and skew the biochemistry and skew the physical experience. So, in fact, anything that is significantly out of balance, out of order, or significantly impacting in this unseen realm can in fact cause physical symptoms. And so a lot of times, the reason that people are going everywhere, seeing everybody, doing everything, getting no results, and being told all the things that I described earlier in this video, is simply because the cause is not being diagnosed, the cause is being diagnosed inaccurately, or the diagnosis is based on symptoms. Oh, I have a pain here. Oh, I have a chronic headache. Oh, I've got a chronic back pain, when in fact, the physical symptoms are arising in one of the other two realms, or as a combination of imbalances, compromises, deficiencies in the relationship between and among the realms. Now, when we're dealing with the virtual realm, obviously, in order to ascribe a direction of correction with each realm, with the relationship between and among the realms, and in an effort to construct a reasonable protocol for you to implement as soon as possible, that may involve elements of structure, exercise, breathing, elements of supplements, dietary changes, elements of looking at thinking about your thoughts and rectifying, coming to grips with any of that potential developmental trauma, those shock traumas, or those beliefs. And I've said many times, and perhaps this is the first time you're hearing it, but you and I are in fact the biological end product of our interpretation of our perceptions. Now, to give you an example of what this means, if I took a white thread and I took a red thread and I just entangled them and held them up a few feet away from you and asked you what you see, tell me, describe to me what colors you see, one of the colors that you would inevitably describe to me is the fact that what you're seeing is pink. I'm seeing pink. I don't see the red, I don't see the white, I see the pink, when in fact, if I bring that jointed thread closer to you, what you're actually going to see is a red thread and a white thread and no pink thread. So your perception of the entangled threads is in fact inaccurate. You're seeing something that in reality is not there. So in fact, you can't get rid of something that actually doesn't exist. The same thing happens with symptoms. So if you're interpreting your perceptions, and that interpretation of your perceptions is skewing the integrity of the three realms, in particular the biochemistry, and you are the biological end product of your interpretation of that perception, then the pink that you're seeing is causing a compromise in the biological environment, which is then related inevitably to the symptoms that you're experiencing that arise in that biological environment and impacting other realms, including the structure, the biochemistry, and the psychological, emotional, spiritual, or the virtual realm. So there are a lot of concepts associated with constructing a direction of correction. One of those concepts originates in quantum physics and is related to quantum physics, and some of it is in contemporary psychology, and some of it is in a lot of the motivational information that you're going to see on the internet, that you're going to see written in books, and it all sounds so simple. Change your mind, change your life. Well, okay, do something simple, but you know, when we relate back to some of the caveats that I've developed over a period of 40 years that pretty much guide me through the evaluation process, it's important for you to be aware of them. Not that you need to do anything with them at this point, but it's an awareness tool. And all of these are detailed in my last book, Beyond Medicine, Exploring a New Way of Thinking. But there are things like everything works, but everything works when it's applied to a specific set of circumstances for which it's most indicated. So everything's on the table at this point. You have an acre of pain, you have diabetes, you have cardiovascular compromises, you have IBS, you have depression, you have anxiety, everything's on the table and everything works. But in contrast to that concept, there are no panaceas, meaning that if it was as simple as a sales page on the internet and take this one simple pill for your this or that or the other thing, everybody would simply take that, we'd all be well, we'd all be balanced, we'd all be perfect, and we wouldn't need anything else. So there are some other concepts related to constructing the direction of correction, like when you hear horses look for hoofbeats, meaning start where you are. What is it you're experiencing? Where have you been? What have you done? These are all important parts of why you haven't achieved the outcome that you intended when you engaged a particular process or a particular solution theoretically geared toward turning your symptoms into solutions. Now, other caveats are things like everything is what it isn't. And one of the examples I used in Beyond Medicine is that of homeopathy. In reality, the tincture of homeopathic dilution is a poison or something that's toxic to the human body, but because of the way it's constructed and developed and delivered, it's actually a therapeutic substance. So it is what it isn't. Another way of saying that is every man's ceiling is another man's floor. So everything is what it isn't. It has the potential to be something that it really isn't, just as the red and white thread are pink, when in reality there is no pink. Now, when we start to incorporate some of the concepts from quantum physics and we begin to state them in contemporary terms, they sound like this. Thoughts lead to feelings, lead to emotions, lead to actions, lead to results. Quite a simple formula. But what thoughts? What feelings? What emotions? What actions? What results? Now, another way of saying that is energy flows where attention goes. What you focus on expands. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Beautiful sentences, beautiful strategies, beautiful affirmations. And by the way, affirmations are an incredible tool along the way to incorporate into the process of creating a direction of correction. However, most of these isolated elements in and of themselves are traditionally insubstantial enough to produce the intended outcome of radiant health, of restoring integrity to the entire person. Now, obviously, this is one of the goals of the matrix assessment profile, to be able to identify where the cause is rooted, in which realm or realms is the potential or probable cause rooted, and what is it that we do about it? How do we create a direction of correction? So obviously, if we're dealing with something structural or a traumatic incident that results in physical compromises, relatively easy to manage and resolve unless there actually was a psychological component involved in you consciously or unconsciously co-creating a set of events that led to an incident. Also with the biochemistry, is that biochemistry simply skewed because of some indiscretions over a long period of time where you just haven't made the best choices or the right choices, or you subscribe to something that was inappropriate for you simply because everything works, but you're being told because of a great sales page or a great book or a great pitch or great results that someone that you know told you they got as a result of this diet, this supplement, that supplement, this strategy, this exercise, or that. All of these things have to be taken into consideration, but when we get to the virtual realm, we've got a lot of other issues to consider. Now, when factoring in some of the less tangible aspects of quantum physics, we have things like the double slit experiment or the observer effect, simply suggesting that nothing exists until you observe it, and that all matter is composed of energy, and the physical body, being matter, is in fact at a very fundamental level simply energy, confirmed by the fact that you and I will look at each other every day and we see you and we see me. We see the physical body. When we look in a microscope, we see the things that are in and around the physical body. When we look at a telescope, we see the things in and around our universe. When we look at an electron microscope or through an electron microscope, we see the same substance that appears as me, appearing as atoms and molecules and electrons, energy, and waves. And so within the virtual realm, we have to take into consideration, particularly if the cause of your symptoms is rooted in the virtual realm, the fact that everything works, everything is possible, every solution exists as a potential in the realm of possibilities. So everything's possible. So how do you access the possibilities of a remedy, of a solution, and collapse that into an actual experience? Well, theoretically, based on the laws of quantum physics, what you focus on expands. You form an intention, you plant that intention in the garden of possibilities, and the more you focus on it, it collapses into a probability, which is a probability amplitude, meaning the statistical likelihood that what you're focusing on is in fact going to show up in your life as a solution, as a remedy, as a cure, as a solution to whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's something physical, emotional, psychological, or structural. Now, beyond this, we have to merge the two concepts coming from psychology and some of the concepts I shared with you earlier, in conjunction with this vague concept of, oh my God, the field of all possibilities, and what I focus on expands and I collapse it into a probability, and that probability becomes what? How does that factor into thoughts, things, feelings, emotions, actions, results. Well, focusing on what you want is in fact an action. And that action is in fact related to taking a possibility, collapsing it into a probability, collapsing that by virtue of taking an action into a physical experience, and ultimately resulting in the outcome that you intended. Now, associated with it, somewhere in the middle now, without sounding too woo-woo and without sounding too conventional, there's a middle road to constructing a direction of correction. And this is a part of the process that's going to benefit you in the long run, whether your symptoms are physical, structural, biochemical, or rooted in the virtual realm. There are two tools that can be implemented immediately by anyone dealing with anything that they want to improve, that they want to solve, that they want to resolve. And these tools are directly related to a function of the brain, and that function is generating brain waves. And it's related to the fact that these waves are in fact energetic in nature. In other words, they're a form of energy that's constantly alive and changing within the physical matrix, within the biological matrix, within the psychological, emotional matrix. And this is related to another concept, that every second there are 810,000 new cells being created in your body, in my body, in every body. Now, this is a tremendous opportunity, assuming that the birthplace of that 810,000 cells is in fact different from the residence of all of the previous cells that exist in that environment, which means change the environment, turn on, turn off the genes associated with the development of certain known chronological, known degenerative, known genetic disorders, diseases, if you will, and turn on the genes that are associated with communicating with the cells, communicating with the various systems that are known to respond to that communication and are in fact part of our innate ability, of our innate system development, of the way that we're constructed as physical, biological, psychological, emotional human beings, to be incorporated into the various systems in the body, like the immune system and the tissues, organs, and glands, like the thyroid, like the liver, like the heart, like the lungs. Now, there's a whole world of theoretical and factual information associated with this process that we're not going to get into today, but this is all just food for thought at this point. But I want to demonstrate for you a couple of the tools that you can use to deliberately impact, form an intention, introduce this tool into in conjunction with a morning discipline of as little as 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, up to 45 minutes or an hour, whatever it is that you choose, whatever it is that you're comfortable with, but in as little as 3 minutes a day, you can use either one of these tools to impact and affect the various brainwave frequencies that your brain is generating right now. So while you're listening, while you're watching your brain activity, if we were to have an EEG machine hooked up to your skull, we would see various ranges of brainwaves, from delta, theta, and alpha to beta and gamma. Now, each of these brainwave ranges is associated with different moods, with different thought processes, with different experiences, like sleep, like rapid eye movement, like calmness, like relaxation, like anxiety, like depression, like bliss. And so obviously, the more time that you can spend in brainwave ranges associated with the more productive ranges of frequencies, the more likely you are to associate all of the things that you come in contact with every day as something, as an opportunity, as opposed to an obstacle or a challenge or a conflict. And you're going to be able to see everything is what it isn't, that challenge, that crisis is in fact an opportunity, and you're going to intuitively learn by yourself, perhaps with some guidance and another teacher to guide you initially, but you're going to be able to develop your intuitive sense of what's right for you. You're also going to be able to develop a sense of responding to any stimulus as opposed to reacting and contributing to spikes in the brain waves that are ultimately going to affect the biological environment, affect your experience of life, and affect your ability to function as an optimal, radiant human being. Now, the ranges of brainwave frequencies, without getting into detail today, the range of beta has two elements, two sides to it. There's high beta, which is the monkey mind of anxiety and depression in particular. The low beta is the everyday mind of me talking on the video, me writing a narrative, creating a flow chart, reading a book, focusing on something, everyday tasks, the things that you have to do every day to get from here to there, feed yourself, etc., etc. But alpha is a range of frequencies associated with calm, deliberate. What they also call the range of inactive activity, so to speak. So it's a bridge between the beta and the lower frequency ranges that are more associated with deep relaxation, with contemplation, meditation, prayer, deep abdominal breathing, sleep, rapid eye movement, repair during the process of sleep, and all of the functions that your body has to perform automatically. And so obviously we want to spend as much time as we can in ranges from alpha, delta, and theta as we can. Now, one of the tools for doing that is meditation, obviously, but meditation can take a long time and can be very annoying and can be very distracting. It can be very efforting, if you will. And so anything that you can introduce, incorporate, integrate to make this process a little bit easier to achieve that alpha state, to achieve that relaxed arousal, if you will, of the alpha and the delta and the theta states, and maintain a deliberately and an intentional relaxed state of being is going to be to your benefit ultimately. So the two tools that I'm talking about are dichotic dissertation and a personal EEG machine. The one that I use is called the Muse. And one of them is an EEG machine, a very basic version of it. And one of them is an audio that I've constructed over a period of time that actually provokes, stimulates, and establishes neural pathways known to be associated with alpha, delta, and theta. And so they're two different processes, but they can be used together. One is more or less a monitoring tool that gives you feedback about what's really going on in my brain and what's really going on in my head and how relaxed am I really? Are the brain waves that I'm generating consistent with what it is that I'm feeling and what it is that I want to feel? How can I track this? How can I monitor it? How can I use these tools to assist me in dealing with virtual realm compromises as a singular cause, or as it is involved with the other two realms? Now, essentially, the EEG device looks like this. It looks like a pair of headsets, and on the inside of it, there are sensors, and these sensors attach to different places on the head, and you just put it on, and it rests on your ears, and the band rests across the front of your forehead. And you turn it on, and when you turn it on, you're going to see a light, so you know that you're connected to your smartphone, which is a device that I use to monitor while I'm meditating in the morning. and track the brainwave frequencies, how much activity, how much of the time am I spending in an active state of mind, how much time am I in a neutral where I'm not really focused, but I'm not really relaxed and calm, and how much of the time am I really calm? Creating and contributing to an environment that's going to be productive in regards to all of the other efforts that I make every day to achieve the intended outcome of radiant health. Now, the other tool that I use is called dichotic dissertation, and this is an audio series actually, and this is a little different in the sense that you don't, Muse, the EEG, is in fact not a headset. It's a monitoring tool for portions of the brain that are above the ears and behind the ears, and so you're going to need a pair of headsets or earbuds. And you can use these two processes together. You can use them individually, and you can use them sequentially, however you choose. But the dichotic dissertation is designed to fatigue the conscious mind and to support the intended outcome. So each of the elements in each of the dichotic series are constructed specifically for a purpose: stress reduction, weight loss, sleep, pain, any number of symptoms that you might be experiencing that do have a virtual component to them that would require, ultimately, in order for you to manage these symptoms until and unless you arrive at a solution for the cause, for you to remain as calm as possible, as relaxed as possible, as receptive as possible for as long as possible. And so the way this process works is you're going to hear some sounds when you start the audio. Things like waves, things like the wind, things like music, soft music, meditative music. And then very shortly my voice comes on and I'm describing a scene that has nothing really to do with anything except the issue that you're intending to deal with. So it might sound something like, he or she was walking down the beach one day in deep contemplation of the symptoms that they were experiencing and not knowing really what to do with them, and listening to the waves and feeling the wind on the skin. He arrived at a possible solution, and then my voice disappears and the music comes back, and then you start to hear what are called binaural beats, or little thumping sounds in the background, and then you hear what are called alpha frequencies, which are designed to encourage your brain to resonate with those audible frequencies to establish a parameter within the alpha theta range. And so as this range is established throughout these audios, obviously we have to eliminate any static coming from the monkey mind, from beta. And so the way I've done this is, in addition to all of these things that you're hearing, my voice now comes back, superimposed upon the sounds that you're hearing, the binaural beats that you're hearing, the alpha wave frequencies that you're hearing. And I begin telling two stories, one in each ear, both stories completely different from each other, not having anything to do with each other. One of them is a male walking down the beach, experiencing everything I just described. The other is a female walking through the woods, climbing a mountain, experiencing a rainforest, something similar, and both of them are going on at the same time. And initially it's a little fatiguing, it's a little confusing, it's a little annoying, in fact, because your monkey mind's trying to listen to both stories at the same time. However, what I've done is construct each of the stories so that where I begin in one story, pause in the other story, they come together with the words that I'm using to produce a third story in the center of your brain, consistent with, congruent with, and associated with the alpha, delta, and theta ranges of frequencies in the brain. So as the monkey mind collapses in an effort to identify the core concept of each of the audios, all of a sudden you hear a third story, and that third story is associated with what you want to achieve, and that third story is now embedded in a relationship with brainwave frequencies, alpha, delta, and theta, associated with the ability to absorb this third story and integrate it into the construction of new neural pathways within 21 to 46 days, creating new neural pathways that will support this intention embedded in these audios without you having to do anything except listen to the audio. So obviously, one of the ways to monitor the changes and the improvements in relationship to the actual brain wave ranges is to use the Muse. And the Muse can be a powerful tool for monitoring the brain wave frequency. So in creating the direction of correction and incorporating some tools and strategies that can accelerate and enhance your natural, your innate ability to experience radiant, total, whole person health and well-being, these are two tools that are simply available, relatively inexpensive, easy to use, and actually don't involve you doing anything except sitting, following your breath, listening to some audios, and voila, the rest of the work is done for you because of the action that you took, the intention that you formed, and the tools and the strategies that you implemented and integrated into your daily discipline. So in an effort to make this as available to as many people as possible, I've constructed a couple of opportunities for you. I've created two major opportunities, in fact, one for the dichotic audios and one for the Muse. And I've arranged with the company that manufactures the home EEG machine for you to get a special discount using the link below. And once again, well, I haven't said this previously, but if you use this link and you choose to acquire the Muse, your discount's not going to show up until you process the shopping cart. So don't be alarmed when you get the same price that the general public is seeing when they log on to the Muse website. And then I've arranged for a special opportunity for you to access the dichotic audios as well. And you'll see expanded information on both of these if you just click the link below, and you can review them for yourself and decide if this is an opportunity that is for you, because remember, everything works, but everything works most specifically when it's applied to a set of circumstances for which it's most indicated. So if you've been told one of the things I suggested at the beginning of this video, can't find anything wrong, symptoms are normal for your age, all the tests are normal, we got to wait and see, we got to run more tests, the symptoms are all in your head. If you've been suffering from chronic and non-responsive disorders, if you have a misdiagnosis, if you've got a diagnosis that has not accurately reflected the cause of your chronic concerns, your chronic symptoms, if you are frustrated, if you're at the end of your rope, if you're experiencing physical discomfort, biochemical expressions of compromises, imbalances, and deficiencies, or psychological and emotional or spiritual compromises as a result of physical symptoms that just seem to go on forever, then you want to seriously consider the matrix assessment profile as a starting point for the direction of correction, and you want to incorporate as soon as possible the management tools that I've shared with you today, the dichotic dissertation and the Muse or the home EEG. Now, next time I'm going to be sharing some advanced concepts in regard to creating strategies for managing chronic and non-responsive disorders. But in the meantime, I hope you'll take this opportunity to at least look at some of these tools, to look at some of these strategies, to take a look at some of these possibilities seriously, and see if it's something that resonates with you, that you feel like you could incorporate easily, that you feel like you would benefit from immediately, and just click the link and take the first step in the direction of correction and turning your symptoms into solutions. I'm Dr. Richard DeSenza. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.